Hello, friends. In this video, we want to share the stories of people who have recently left this world. Their lives and legacies deserve to be remembered, and we hope you will discover something meaningful about them today. Before we begin, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Now, let's get started.
September 10th, 2025. On this day, the world bid farewell to Sally Saxs, a woman who became an unforgettable symbol of a generation. She was not just an actress and model, but a cultural icon of the 1960s, remembered for her natural beauty, her effortless style, and her presence in the revolutionary films of that era. Sally embodied a free-spirited energy that spoke to the youth of her time, leaving behind images and roles that continue to define what we think of as the California dream. Sally Saxs rose to prominence through her work with American International Pictures, where she starred in the famous Beach Party films. These movies, lighthearted and carefree, represented a new form of cinema that celebrated surf, sun, and youthful rebellion. With her bright blonde hair, sun-kissed skin, and lively energy, she quickly became one of the recognizable faces of the beach film movement, working alongside Frankie Avalon, Annette Funicello, and other stars of the period. Her charm was not only in her looks, but also in the way she radiated joy and freedom, capturing a moment in American culture when the world seemed wide open and full of possibility. Beyond her career on screen, Sally lived a life that mirrored the values of the era she helped to define. She was known for her openness, her adventurous spirit, and her love for art and people. For many, she became not just a performer, but a symbol of youth unbound by convention. In later years, while she stepped away from Hollywood, her name remained tied to that shimmering image of the 60s, carefree, glamorous, and alive with music, surf, and endless summers. Today, when we remember Sally Saxs, we remember more than just the films. We remember the feeling of optimism she represented, the innocence mixed with rebellion, and the spark of individuality she carried into every role. For this, she will always be respected, cherished, and honored. Her memory continues to inspire those who long for freedom, beauty, and authenticity. We respected her for her grace, we admired her for her courage to embody a new spirit, and we loved her for the way she made the world feel warmer.
Died on September 9, 2025. On that day, the wrestling world lost Chuck Coates, a man who may not have stood constantly in the spotlight, but whose work and dedication left a lasting mark. He was respected as one of the most reliable ring soldiers of his generation, a performer who built his reputation not on fame, but on professionalism, humility, and strength. Chuck Coates was born on August 13, 1962, in Durham, North Carolina. From an early age, he was drawn to athletics, and it was this passion that eventually led him to wrestling. Trained by Nelson Royal, he stepped into the ring for the first time in 1986, beginning a career that would span decades. He worked in WWF, WCW, and many independent promotions, often taking the role of enhancement talent, a position crucial to wrestling, but often overlooked. In that role, Chuck excelled. He knew how to make matches feel real, how to bring out the best in others, and how to keep the integrity of the sport alive. His toughness, skill, and reliability made him a respected figure among his peers. Though he was never about chasing belts or flashy fame, his presence gave depth to every event he took part in. Colleagues remembered him as a steady hand, a man who could be trusted in the ring, and a person who treated everyone with kindness outside of it. His humility, loyalty, and genuine love for the sport made him stand out in an industry often driven by ego and spectacle. Chuck's life beyond wrestling was marked by the same qualities: devotion to family, loyalty to friends, and courage in facing challenges. He lived authentically, carrying himself with quiet dignity and always showing gratitude for the opportunities he had. As we remember Chuck Coates, we remember a man who embodied resilience, professionalism, and respect. He may not have worn the brightest spotlight, but he was the kind of figure who gave wrestling its backbone. We honor him for his strength, for his dedication, and for the way he made others shine. His memory will remain as a symbol of humility and perseverance, and his legacy will continue to live on in the hearts of those who knew him, watched him, and respected him.
Died on September 11, 2025. On that day, the world of music lost Nikki Ryan, an Irish producer, engineer, and manager whose vision and devotion to sound changed the landscape of modern music forever. He was not a man who sought the stage or the spotlight, but without him, some of the most hauntingly beautiful and atmospheric music of the past half-century would never have existed. He is remembered above all as the creative partner who helped give shape to the ethereal sound of Enya, working side by side with his wife Roma Ryan to create a universe of music that felt timeless, otherworldly, and yet deeply human. Nikki Ryan was born in Dublin in July 1946, and from an early age, sound fascinated him. He was never content to treat music as background. He wanted to understand how it worked, how it resonated in the body, how it could be layered and transformed into something beyond the ordinary. Long before international fame, he worked with Irish artists, built sound systems, and experimented with ways of letting people feel music physically as well as emotionally. He carried the same spirit of invention into his later career, where he became known not only for technical skill, but also for his gift of hearing possibilities that others missed. His path through Irish folk and traditional circles gave him both the craft of engineering and the intuition of a musician, and he used both when he began shaping the careers of bands and singers in the 1970s and 1980s. The defining chapter of his life began when he partnered with Enya and Roma. Out of a modest studio they built together, he crafted the sonic identity that would travel across the world. The lush walls of sound, the countless layers of vocals, the reverberating atmospheres that seemed to suspend time, these were Nicky's creations, drawn out with patience and perfectionism. He believed that sound itself could be sculptured into architecture, and his work proved him right. Albums like Watermark and Shepherd Moons did not simply sell millions, they became part of the emotional soundtrack of an era, and their endurance is a testament to the discipline and artistry that Nicky poured into every detail. He never rushed, never settled, and never let fashion dictate choices. He followed only the path of what felt true. Beyond the studio, he was known as a husband, a father, and a man of humility. Those who knew him speak of someone who carried himself with quiet dignity, whose wit and warmth balanced his perfectionism. He did not build a career on self-promotion, but on trust, on collaboration, and on holding himself to a standard of excellence that inspired everyone around him. His family life was intertwined with his music, and the bond he shared with Roma and their daughters was as much a foundation as any studio wall. In remembering Nikki Ryan, we remember more than a producer. We remember a visionary who believed that music could be more than entertainment, that it could be a sanctuary, a force of healing, a language beyond words. His legacy is not only in the records that bear his name, but in the countless listeners who found comfort, inspiration, and peace in the soundscapes he helped to create. He showed us that patience and devotion can lead to beauty that transcends time, and he left behind a body of work that will continue to echo long after his passing. Today we honor him with gratitude, respect, and love, for he gave us not just music, but entire worlds in which to dream.
Born on September 25, 1944, Michael Kirk Douglas became one of the most recognizable American actors and producers of his era, a durable star who moved effortlessly between box office hits and prestige drama. The achievement most people associate with his name is rare and defining. He won an Academy Award as a producer for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, helping bring Ken Kesey's story to the screen, and later won the Academy Award for Best Actor for his indelible portrayal of Gordon Gekko in Wall Street. That double crown, producer and performer, captures what made him popular and enduring: a keen instinct for material, a magnetic screen presence, and the drive to shape stories from both sides of the camera. He was born in New Brunswick, New Jersey, to actor Kirk Douglas and Bermudian actress Diana Dill, arriving into a household where the language of rehearsal rooms and film sets was everyday conversation. The family's life was not static. His parents' careers meant movement and long hours, and their eventual divorce when he was still young gave Michael an early understanding of self-reliance. What he absorbed most from that world, however, was craft, the respect for preparation, the discipline of showing up, the belief that performance is a trade as much as it is inspiration. Childhood for Michael unfolded along the northeast corridor of the United States, with stretches in New York and New England that exposed him to both city energy and quieter school-centered communities. He attended the Allen Stevenson School in Manhattan, then Eaglebrook School in Massachusetts, and later the Choate School in Connecticut, environments that broadened his view beyond Hollywood and gave him a structured place to test himself. He gravitated toward school plays, debate rooms, and any stage that would let him try on voices and gestures. Friends remembered a teenager who was curious rather than cocky, watchful rather than loud, the kind of student who would stay behind after rehearsal to figure out why a scene felt flat. Visits to his father on sets were less about glamour than about process. He watched cameras being placed, listened to the shorthand between directors and actors, and learned how many invisible hands make a single moment believable. At home, his mother's sensibility grounded him in text and tone, the precision of a line read well, the difference between performing and inhabiting. He picked up summer jobs that kept him near the stage, ushering, pulling curtains, carrying props, anything that let him stand close enough to see how professional stories are built. By the time he finished prep school, the pull toward acting was more than adolescent curiosity. It was the next practical step. He had a foundation of discipline from his schools, a lived apprenticeship from family and backstage work, and a growing appetite to study the craft formally. Standing on the threshold of university, he was ready to leave the audience and step fully into the light, intent on turning all that observation into performance. In the years that followed his school days, Michael Kirk Douglas set his course with determination, moving from the discipline of prep academies
into the world of higher education and training that would sharpen his craft and prepare him for a life in the arts. He entered the University of California, Santa Barbara, choosing not only a respected institution, but one that placed him at the edge of the Pacific, a continent away from his father's Hollywood and yet within reach of the industry's orbit. There, he majored in drama, immersing himself in theater programs that demanded both intellectual engagement and physical stamina. His early performances on campus stages were marked by intensity. He was not content with reciting lines, but wanted to embody the weight of a character, to understand motivation, rhythm, and silence. Professors noted his seriousness and his willingness to take risks, even when the role was small. During these years, Michael traveled further into the world of performance, attending summer sessions and eventually the American Place Theater in New York, where he tested his skills against the raw energy of aspiring actors determined to make their mark. This period of study was punctuated by the decision to apply to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, a place where the lessons were strict, the critiques sharp, and the competition relentless. There he deepened his knowledge of classical texts, absorbed the nuances of Shakespearean phrasing, and learned how to use voice and movement with control. He was no longer the watchful boy on the sidelines. He was an actor in formation, surrounded by peers equally hungry for the stage. Beyond the classroom, the city of New York offered him a different kind of education. Theaters of all sizes, from Broadway houses to cramped off stages, became his second home. He spent hours observing established performers, noting how they carried themselves even after the curtain fell. He took odd jobs to sustain himself, restaurant work, delivery shifts, backstage tasks, but every spare moment went into building his capacity as an actor. It was a life of sacrifice, but also of discovery, as he came to realize that his path was not only about talent, but about endurance, about the willingness to persist through rejection and obscurity. By the late 1960s, Michael was beginning to attract small but meaningful opportunities. Guest roles on television introduced him to the mechanics of the camera, how a lens captured what a stage audience could not see, how subtle gestures replaced projection. He learned to navigate between respect for his father's legacy and the need to carve out an identity of his own. This struggle to define himself gave his work an added urgency. Every audition, every rehearsal was not only for the role, but for the right to be seen as Michael, not merely as Kirk's son. By the end of this chapter of his life, Michael Douglas had moved from being a student and apprentice to a visible force in American entertainment. He had proven his ability to hold the screen, earned his place in the industry, and laid the groundwork for the defining achievements that would come. The years of study, struggle, and apprenticeship had shaped him into more than an actor. They had made him a craftsman, a thinker, and a man prepared to leave his mark on cinema.
As Michael Kirk Douglas moved into the mature stages of his career, the groundwork laid in earlier years began to pay off with extraordinary force. His determination to balance acting with producing culminated in a project that would transform his reputation forever. When he acquired the rights to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest from his father, it was not yet a guaranteed success, but Michael believed deeply in the story's power. He nurtured the film into existence, finding the right collaborators, guiding the production, and ensuring it retained its raw emotional core.
Having proven himself as a producer, Michael set out to establish himself as an actor of equal weight. His choices were daring, ranging from thrillers to romances, from comedies to dark character studies. In the 1980s, he stepped into roles that showed audiences his range. Flawed men, powerful men, men torn between ambition and conscience. His performance as Gordon Gekko in Wall Street in 1987 became the defining role of his acting career. With cold intensity and magnetic energy, he embodied the ruthless creed of "greed is good," a phrase that became part of American cultural memory. For this role, he won the Academy Award for Best Actor, solidifying his position as one of the premier stars of his generation. The contrast was remarkable. On one side, the producer who brought Cuckoo's Nest to life. On the other, the actor who gave the world an unforgettable anti-hero. Off-screen, Douglas also became known for his activism and resilience. He faced personal challenges, health battles, family struggles, and the weight of living under constant public scrutiny, but confronted them with honesty and determination. His marriage to actress Catherine Zeta-Jones was both a partnership of glamour and shared strength, and together they raised a family while navigating the pressures of celebrity life. He also honored the legacy of his father, Kirk Douglas, while carving out his own, never imitating, always creating. In the end, what makes Michael Kirk Douglas remarkable is not only the list of awards and roles, but the longevity of his influence. He showed that an actor could also be a producer, that a son of a legend could become a legend in his own right, and that cinema was not simply entertainment, but a way to reflect the complexities of human ambition and desire. His life's work stands as proof that talent paired with vision can shape culture in ways that endure long after the lights dim. He will always be respected as a man who brought unforgettable characters to life, who fought for the stories he believed in, and who demonstrated resilience in every chapter of his life. The memory of his craft, his dedication, and his voice on screen continues to inspire, reminding us of the power of cinema to define generations and to give shape to human truth.